Welcome back to LFC Burnsy with me, Burnsy, Liverpool fan, anime fan, whatever, as if you can't tell here. But I figured I'd change it up a bit so you can see some of the memorabilia I have. Pretty proud of it. This room is pretty much me in a nutshell, so pretty cool. But today I want to talk about the Ipswich game that happened over the weekend, and then Sunday's game against Brentford. So let's talk about Ipswich first. One thing I want to say is the Ipswich game had a fantastic atmosphere. Obviously, we are away, but the Ipswich fans did not hold back. It was a great atmosphere. The team came out of the gate running. Uh, I was very impressed, honestly. It's very obvious to see why they keep getting promoted because I believe they were in like League One or Two, obviously not just recently, but they've gone up every year, I think, for the past 2 or 3 years with a really young and vibrant manager. So let's talk about the match itself. 2-0 or 2-0, depending on where you are in the world, to Liverpool. So my predictions on the scoreline were close. I'd say 2-1. I'm glad that it was 2-0. I always love to have Allison have a clean sheet and the defenders have a clean sheet. Really, really good game, sort of. Goals by both Salah and Diogo Jota. So really good goals as well. I loved both of the goals, but it was definitely a tale of two halves. That's for sure. Let's talk about the first half. The first half actually looked like I thought it was going to, which sounds bad, but first game, new manager, first game in the Premier League, newly promoted team. It kind of looked like I thought it would look. They were very much on the offensive. They were very much bringing it. They were very much winning all of the duels. Anytime, both offense and defense, they were either first to the ball or they were the ones who were able to muscle somebody off of the ball. They were very much in control. And that sucked. We did see some glimpses from the team, but it did suck to watch that. But again, like I said, it was kind of expected, which also sucks, but it is what it is. It's Liverpool. If you've been sporting for a long time, you understand that that's kind of how it works. Aside from the duels, there were some things happening that I noticed that kind of showed what Slot was trying to do, but also maybe some confusion by some players. I love Andy Robertson. I love him to death, but he looked a bit off. I don't know if that's because of Slot or because of the new system, or if it's just him. He is getting older, so it could very well just be him. But he looked a bit off. Also, McAllister Maka was basically non-existent in the first half. Pretty much not involved in most of the play. I very rarely, heard the announcer call his name. I mean, just almost like he was stuck in that middle third of the field. And I don't know if that was a tactical thing or if it was just him. Maybe he was tired. He is from South America, and I know they got back a little bit later. So that could very well be it. But I was not a fan of him being non existent because I think on the attack, he is extremely good. The biggest, biggest comment I think everybody had was Kwanzaa. Right? So Kwanzaa looked honestly like Kwanzaa. He didn't look bad. Um, he was just losing out, and it was pretty noticeable. It wasn't anything crazy, but I noticed that they were coming at him a lot more, and he and Trent, they were both coming at both of them a lot more. But he didn't seem to be able to control it as much. Had some great plays, but also did not have some as well. So we'll just keep it that way. Then in the second half, Kwanzaa was subbed and Konate came on. And I was kind of surprised by that. I actually thought maybe Kwanzaa had gotten hurt and maybe that explained like some of the duels and stuff he was losing. But come to find out later, that was not the case. Konate looked fantastic, um, as he often does. So he looked really good, very physical, and very much controlled everything that was going on in his quadrant or whatever, in his area, in his zone. So that was a very brave move by Slot, and also helped us understand that one, he will make the change that needs to be made. Oftentimes with Klopp, and oftentimes with other managers, they they give a bit more time, a bit more space to see if the player can come out of it, which can be good and it can happen, but also can backfire on you really easily. And we've seen it many times before with many players that they aren't able to come out of that. So him making that sub showed us a lot, right? He's not afraid to do that. He also isn't going to put up with it, right? He's not going to put up with people not playing to the level that he expects. And that's important because in the future, if someone isn't playing how they're supposed to, hopefully it doesn't matter who it is and he pulls them, because that's what should happen. Everybody has an off day and that's totally fine and should be allowed, but you should also, if you're having an off day, you should be subbed. That's just how it is. That's how the game is played, right? But extremely important sub. And the second half, night and day difference. I think one of the biggest things that we saw is the Gravenberch role. So Gravenberch was playing more of a holding defensive midfielder, which we've never seen him do, and did really well. I'm a bit concerned that versus some of the bigger teams, he will not be able to keep up. But I also think that he has the build and he has the vision and the strength to really make that role his own. Reminded me a lot of a bit quicker Fabinho. So I'm excited to see if he tries to grow into that role and if Slot tries to grow him into that role, and maybe he can get some help from Endo in figuring out how that role is really played and what Slot wants from it, because that could be huge. That could be huge for the team. That would give two defensive midfielders that we don't currently have. We have Endo, and that's basically it, right? Aside from some academy, but yeah, I'm very excited to see, and was extremely shocked by that because honestly, Gravenberch has not impressed me at all, and that was a very impressive performance. I hope that it works out. I really do, because if it did, that would solve a whole lot of problems. So hopefully it does work out, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if it does. Salah also broke the scoring on the first day consecutive year record. It was 8, and that was tied by a number of people, and he brought it to 9, and is the only one with that. So very cool, very happy for him, especially because it was a weird goal, and so for him to get it and keep going after it, because he could have stopped after it was deflected, and to make that goal was amazing. And obviously, kudos to him. His track record speaks for itself, even though he does frustrate me sometimes, so that's okay. And the other surprising thing was that Nunez was left out. Elliott was left out. Like, people that we're used to seeing were left out. Now I know Nunez has not been back long, and so maybe that was why. But it also brings me to that whole riches up front thing that I brought up in the last video. A bit nervous as to how they're going to kind of make sure that everyone stays happy, especially somebody like Nunez, who really wants to be on the pitch all the time. Now, granted, that could have changed with the whole social media debacle, who knows? But I was very surprised by he and Elliott both being left on the bench. All right, now let's pivot and talk about Sunday. So Sunday's game against Brentford at home. I will actually be in New York, so possibly I don't think I'll be able to go to Carragher's to watch. But if the old Carriers is still open, I will definitely go there. And if not, I'll probably find someplace else to watch it. I'm going to a big anime convention there, and I will still end up watching the game because I normally do. I've done that pretty much every year that I've been, that there's been a game on. I think last year was the first year that there wasn't. So should be fun. I'm excited for Slots and the team, obviously, but mainly for Slots' debut at home. Anfield should be rocking, I would assume. But also, I feel it could probably turn pretty quick with a new manager. We'll see. Fickle bunch a lot of times there, so we'll see what happens. I really hope that it goes really well. Brentford does make me a bit nervous just because they can be kind of a black sheep that pops up for us, but that could have also been just a Klopp thing. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. They did play decently on the weekend, this past weekend. Not anything fantastic, but not anything terrible either. So very mid-table. I'm excited to see how Gravenberch, and if he plays that same role, or is it going to be completely different? Maybe Slot's trying to do a bunch of different things just to see, kind of, throw everything at the wall, see what sticks. We'll see. But I honestly imagine that there won't be that many changes to the starting 11 aside from probably Kwanzaa and Konate. That would be the only thing I could really see tactically without like super diving into the tactics. I don't think there's a lot of changes that need to be made for Brentford, so that's why I think that Slot will kind of go that way. And the team came out in the second half and played incredibly. So if they do that to start, then that's a tremendously different thing. The game looks completely different. But I am curious about the center backs. I don't know if Kwanzaa now moves to the bench until bleh, or if it was just, hey, you had an off game, next game you're going to start. So I'm curious to see what will happen with that. But I look forward to it. And the other things I would like to see from that game, I would like to see Darwin on the pitch again. We haven't seen him, and I would like to. I think that I could see a redemption arc in his future under Slot, but I could also see the club just kind of not putting up with what he's done. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. I'm pretty curious. I want to know what's going to happen with that because I really like Darwin. I understand that he missed chances and all that kind of good stuff, but I really like him. He's a workhorse and is a straight up pit bull on the ball, and I miss that, right? Because we haven't had that for a little bit. I'd also like to see Elliott and Gakpo. I really liked Elliott. I thought he was really good last season. I liked him before that too, especially he's younger. He's been around for a while, but I like his tenacity and just his work rate. I do realize he's young and he can mess up, but his tenacity and work rate are never under par. And so I'd like to see him. The only issue is I'm not sure what role he would do. I could see him doing that Sloboslai role, but we'll see. And then Gakpo brings me back to the riches up front. We have a lot of upfront talent, and it's hard to work them on there. He and Elliott basically play. I mean, he and Darwin basically play the same position, and so I think it's going to be kind of a crazy year for the front five, I guess. Very interested to see what happens. As for score line, like I said in the last video, I don't really like to do this, but I think first Anfield game for Slot, I think it's going to be a good one. I'm thinking 3-0, maybe a 3-1. So we'll see. I think Brentford could squeak out a goal, but I could also see leaving them at almost nothing. So we'll see what happens. All right, thanks for joining me here today. Please subscribe to the channel if you like what I do and talk about Liverpool. I do plan to make these videos quite a bit more robust and different in the future. I'm just gearing up for the New York trip, and it's kind of the last thing that's going on here recently. And after that, I'm going to work towards making these videos way, way, way more dynamic. So hope to see you there and hope to hear from you. In the comments below, let me know who you think got man of the match for the last match. Don't You can pick who they picked or your own, really either one. So, all right, see you next week.